Welcome back, Mr. Goodberry. The First Star Logistics studio is fully equipped and ready to record.
Welcome back to Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm Joe Goodberry, and I'm in the First Star Studios in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm here because we're in our top 20 of the 100 greatest Bengals series, and special occasion here for these guys that most of them are going to eventually end up in the Ring of Honor. So it brought me down to the studios here, and what an awesome place it is, and a great place to record this episode for you guys. In our last one, if you didn't check it out, we ended with some long-term Bengals. We saw Dave Lapham, we saw Bob Johnson, we saw Carlos Dunlap. As we kick off our top 20, get into the top 20 with number 20, is a player that almost as long as anybody. There's a couple that are longer, but I think his run is maybe a little bit different because he probably, if I added it up, played with more players on this top 100 list than anybody else. He played from the original helmets with the Bengals on the side all the way into the 90s. So, and think about a guy who played for 14 years with the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm talking about linebacker Reggie Williams. Linebacker Reggie Williams was a third-round pick, 82nd overall in the 1976 draft out of Dartmouth. He would play right away and make the Pro Football Writers Association All-Rookie Team in 1976, playing in 14 games, starting 8, and coming away with 2 sacks and an interception. But that wouldn't be it for Reggie Williams. He would play for the Bengals from 1976 to 1989. 14 years in Cincinnati, spanning from the Paul Brown teams all the way to the last Super Bowl team in 88 and the season after in 89, retiring in 1990. In all, Reggie Williams would appear in 206 games, starting 196. He'd tally up 63 and a half sacks, recover 23 fumbles, 1 for a score, and would intercept 16 balls, also returning 1 for a touchdown. Reggie Williams would be a part of 3 playoff teams in Cincinnati: the 1981 Super Bowl year, the 1982 playoff team, and the 1988 Super Bowl team. Not many on this list can say they played for 2 Super Bowl teams in Cincinnati, and Reggie Williams recorded 3 sacks in his 3 playoff games in the 88 run. Williams would never be honored for a Pro Bowl or All-Pro selection during his 14-year career, but he did win the 1984 Alan Page Community Award, the 1985 Whizzer White NFL Man of the Year Award, the 1986 NFL Man of the Year Award, which is now the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award, and in 1987, he would win the Sports Illustrated Sportsperson of the Year. And in 2007, Reggie Williams was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. While watching these old games, Reggie Williams stood out as a highly athletic but intelligent edge defender. And he would jump over blockers, jump around blockers, spin on them. He would get off of blocks very quickly and easily. He would hunt down quarterbacks in pursuit very well. He was a good edge rusher, but also a well-rounded linebacker. Today's NFL, I wonder if they'd call him an edge rusher, but he was a linebacker in a lot of ways. Even though he accumulated over 60 sacks in his NFL career, he was an all-around player and a leader on some major Bengals teams. Williams has had a long and rough post-playing career, dealing with knee injury and a bunch of major surgeries, and has been an example for many arguments by the players for new benefits in the collective bargaining agreements. I think Reggie Williams has a future shot at the Ring of Honor, coming in at number 20. I don't know how far we'll get into this list in the future, but I do think you could get up to 20, and maybe a guy or two from like Bob Johnson, Dave Lapham. We talked about, I think Lap's a lock eventually, but I think you could get into those early 20s in the Ring of Honor if this goes 30 years down the line. But you'd like to honor these guys while they're still around. So it'd be interesting to see a guy like that played so long and was part of 2 Super Bowl teams, if and when he'll get on that wall of fame, that Ring of Honor inside the stadium at Paycor. The next guy, though, has no chance. And he is, well, maybe, I say that, but then I wonder, This will be a good comment section. What is there ever a path to getting this next player on the Ring of Honor? He's on the Ring of Honor for another franchise, and it's weird that he is, but I'm going to start his clips off with a intro to Sunday Night Football in 2004, because I want to express the level of excitement and hype the Bengals fan base possessed at that point in time. And we know the Burrow era and how excited we are for that. But I think there are young fans that did not realize we had the same sense of hope and wonder, and man, they could get back into this. And of course, I'm talking about at number 19, Carson Palmer.
In 1969, the Cincinnati Bengals chose a player by the name of Greg Cook, 5th overall in the NFL draft. Argued to be one of the best quarterbacks of his generation, Cook suffered a shoulder injury during his rookie campaign. His career ended 4 years later. In 1979, the Bengals selected another franchise quarterback, Jack Thompson. 2,800 miles away, Carson Palmer was born. In 4 years, Thompson threw more interceptions than touchdowns. In 4 years, Carson learned how to throw. 1992, David Klingler is Cincinnati's first-round pick. 1994, Carson Palmer begins to emerge as a can't-miss prospect. 98, he wins a scholarship to USC and starts as a freshman. David Klingler is cut by the Green Bay Packers. The Bengals spend another top draft pick on a quarterback. Akili Smith never matures. But Carson does.
And the winner is Carson Palmer.
So what happens when two divergent paths meet? Dreams are born, expectations rise, and the fate of one rests solely with the other. Or does it?
Quarterback from the University of Southern California, number 9, Carson Palmer.
Oh, Brown Stadium is sold out, and the excitement in Cincinnati has been unmatched in recent years.
Carson Palmer was the first overall pick out of USC in the 2003 NFL Draft, the Bengals making him their franchise quarterback after a Heisman-winning season for the Trojans. Palmer was an easy choice. 6'5", could move, would stand in the pocket, read defenses, and possessed a cannon of an arm. He was a golden prospect with a golden arm, and he made defenses pay when he got on the field to start in 2004.
Off the plate fake, Palmer under pressure throws, and it's complete to Chad Ochocinco. Yards, he's got the 2 picks. Oh, flea flicker. Little trickery. Palmer throwing, and caught by Ochocinco. Curls it upfield, and finally brought down in.
With a host of weapons around him, Chad Johnson, TJ Hushmanzada, Rudy Johnson, Chris Henry, and a fantastic offensive line, Palmer and this offense didn't take long before they were dropping bombs and scoring with the very best in the league. The 2005 season was Carson Palmer's breakout year. Starting and playing in all 16 games, going 11-5, completing nearly 68% of his passes, and throwing 32 touchdowns, Palmer was setting franchise records in just his second season as a starter.
Palmer with the hesitation looking for Henry, and he's got him for a touchdown. Chris Henry, his first career NFL touchdown.
In that pocket this year, he's not reluctant at all to leave it. There's a tough throw, and what a catch by Ochocinco.
Second and 8 from the 40. Palmer loading for Chad Johnson, who caught it for a gain of 15 in front of Nick.
2005 wasn't just Carson Palmer's breakout year. It was the year the franchise got back. It was the year the fan base believed again. Sure, there were glimpses in the 15 years previous to that, but for the first time, you actually believed that with this quarterback, this set of weapons, Marvin Lewis, a head coach with an opportune defense, they were going to make a run. And then it all fell apart on the first play from scrimmage in the playoffs against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're not going to focus on that and dwell on that. But I do wonder how this legacy would have gone and how his career would have gone if that single play did not happen.
Palmer on first down, looking for the goods, and there's Ocho Cinco. Touchdown.
Hall of Fame players. Palmer. Pumping. Palmer throws it up top for Henry. It's caught down the sideline. Breakaway speed. Henry down at the 5.
In total, Carson Palmer would spend 7 years in Cincinnati, appearing and playing in 99 games. He'd throw for 22,694 yards and 154 touchdowns, with just 2 trips to the playoffs.
Wide open is Terrell Owens, and that's a touchdown.
Palmer stands in, steps up, lets it go long. Man is open. Ocho Cinco.
There's Manzata in motion. Palmer. Chad Johnson touchdown. He was all alone.
This year, a year ago at this time, they were 1-11-1. Going for the big ball. Got a man open. Ball is caught. Touchdown. Chad Ochocinco.
And obviously, things ended poorly between Palmer and the Bengals, ultimately demanding a trade, threatening retirement, and saying he would never play in Paul Brown Stadium again. Since then, he has said some things. The team has had him do a couple of fun. I remember when Joe Burrow and T. Higgins were drafted in the same year, and Carson Palmer and Chad Johnson came back and did a video with those two. And I thought maybe we had an olive branch going there. I think some fans are still hurt and still they use Carson Palmer's words against him in a lot of ways because he said these things and he did these things and he abandoned the team and the fan base when we felt like he was our hope of getting things back in order. He did still spend 7 years, and the average player on the top 100 list spent just 8 years with the Bengals. So, maybe we would have only had a couple more years left to go with him. Maybe it would have been longer. Quarterbacks are different, right? We expect him to go 15 years. That's not always the case. 19 on the list. Had he have had a higher legacy score, he'd probably be top 12, maybe even knocking on top 10. But he got the lowest legacy score of any player in our top 100 rankings, and it's fitting. Next on the list is somebody that only spent 7 years as well in Cincinnati, but was a impact player in those 7 years on the defensive side. A guy that was probably ahead of his time. I think if he was playing in today's NFL, he'd be much more seen as a Swiss Army defensive knife that you could employ in a lot of different ways than the Bengals did. I just don't think it was as valued back then and people didn't realize. And then his career didn't last as long as maybe we had hoped. And that maybe hurt his legacy a little bit, but I still think he's got a great shot at the Ring of Honor eventually. Coming in at number 18 is David Fulcher.
But it was the backfield starters that shared the key to many of the Bengals' victories, led by 3-time Pro Bowler David Fulcher.
Fulcher was a third-round pick, 78th overall in the 1986 draft out of Arizona State. He would play and start in all 16 games in 86, recording 4 interceptions, 2 sacks, and a fumble recovery. For that, he would make the Pro Football Writers Association NFL All-Rookie Team in 86. And Fulcher would be highly decorated in his 7 years in Cincinnati. 3 Pro Bowls between 1988, 89, and 90, and a second-team All-Pro in 1990 to go with his first-team All-Pro selection in 1989.
I think the one reason why the turnovers are happening is because we have a lot of people flying around now instead of having 2 or 3 people getting to the ball. When the ball's in the air, everybody in the secondary is around the football.
In Fulcher's 7 years with the Bengals, he would appear in 100 games starting 98, plus another 5 playoff games between 88 and 90, recording 3 interceptions in those 5 playoff games. So if you're wondering if he was an impact player, he was. He also had a sack in that Super Bowl. In all, he would record 31 interceptions, returning 2 for touchdowns, recover 9 fumbles, and record 8.5 sacks. He's a member of the Bengals' 40th and 50th anniversary teams and was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2021. And when the Bengals made a list in 2017 of the top players of all time, they put David Fulcher 6th.
But this season's standout defenseman was surely David Fulcher. Tops in team performance and second in the AFC for interceptions, Fulcher gained a starting spot at the Pro Bowl for the second straight season.
Fulcher was the Troy Polamalu for that era of Bengals defenses with their fire zone blitzes and the creativeness on the back half where they would move him around, play him at linebacker, nickel, safety, strong safety, free safety. You'd have to figure out where David Fulcher was pre-snap on every play. And because he could line up everywhere and do so many things and blitz and defend the run and had great ball skills and could hit and could run, it made it very hard on offenses. He was probably late 80s team, the best defender on that team. And we're going to have a guy ranked a little bit higher in Tim Krumrie coming up shortly. But, I think between the high of Fulcher versus the longevity of Krumrie, Fulcher may have been a little bit better. And it's hard to say that, but that's how much he stands out. Go watch an old game, and the guy stands out consistently. And not just stands out. I think when the games were the biggest, when the stage was the brightest, the lights were the brightest, when you needed a play, it seemed like David Fulcher was the guy to answer that call. After his playing career, Fulcher has been a president for the Walter Camp Football Foundation and been a local Cincinnati high school head coach.
Oh, man, what a day, what a day, what a day. They say it's cold out here. I ain't cold, listen, man. Feel warm, feel good. Another day at the office, boss. You know what? Somebody's got to get paid. So why not go do the job, huh?
David Fulcher almost always does his job. Though his season was shortened by injury, the All-Pro strong safety still had 3 thefts and finished 4th on the team in tackles, many of the bell-ringing, ball-dropping variety.
Faux Rock coming in at number 18, the highest ranked safety in Bengals history. We've had the highest linebacker with Reggie Williams. Carson Palmer was not the highest quarterback. We're going to have a couple ahead of him. We're going to have the highest graded or ranked tight end in Bengals history at number 17 now. And you all know who it is, but I'll save the name for the title card. But I think he could have been a Hall of Famer. And I think had he had a quarterback, and I think he agrees, there's been a lot of interviews where he said his hand might be full of rings if Greg Cook didn't injure his shoulder and go downhill. And it wasn't until Kenny Anderson got there where the Bengals got established at quarterback. But this guy was nasty. We're going to go over his stats and watch the highlights now. And number 17 is tight end, Bob Trumpy.
Number 84, Bob Trumpy. At 6'5" and 220 pounds, Trumpy was too big and too good not to play, and he found himself at both split end and tight end during the season. And he used his sure hands and bruising strength to advantage.
Bob Trumpy was a 12th round pick, the 301st overall player in the 1968 draft. Trumpy would play 10 years in Cincinnati for the Bengals, from the start of their franchise in 68 until 1977. Appearing in 128 games and starting 122, Trumpy would catch 298 balls for 4,600 yards exactly. He'd also haul in 35 scores. Trumpy was part of playoff teams in 70, 73, and 75.
The Bengals had tasted blood, and they liked it.
But in the second quarter, the teams reversed roles. Bengals quarterback Sam White hit tight end Bob Trumpy. The big rookie from Utah turned the short pass into an 80-yard scoring play. Poise under pressure. This is the quality Greg Cook seems to possess. A poise that belies his age. He and receiver Bob Trumpy, number 84, put Cincinnati ahead by 11 on this 78-yard score. But quarterback Sam White, number 14, came off the bench and hooked up on an 80-yard touchdown pass to Bengal Bob Trumpy, number 84, who was rather emphatic about the score.
While those total yardage and catch numbers don't seem crazy, it's that he averaged 15.4 yards per catch over his career as a tight end, 17.3 as a rookie, 22.6 yards per reception in 1969. Check this out, 37 catches, 835 yards, and 9 scores in 69. That was the year with Greg Cook.
The Bengals often called upon football's oldest allies, trickery and deception, as quarterback Greg Cook threw one of 3 touchdown passes to Bob Trumpy, number 84.
Bob Trumpy would make the Pro Bowl 4 times in his career, 68, 69, 70, and 73. And he would also be a first-team All-Pro in 1969 and is a member of the Cincinnati Bengals' 50th anniversary team.
Long strides carried him off to the end zone land.
Then a tricky triple handoff led to a Cincinnati touchdown.
Leading 17-10, quarterback Ken Anderson riveted his eyes on tight end Bob Trumpy. When Trumpy caught the pass, his eyes read only touchdown. "34 yards later, Trumpy scored, and the Bengals had won their first of the year, 24-10 over Houston. Tight end Bob Trumpy, number 84, worked free over the middle for another score.
It was only a matter of time before Anderson isolated one of his game breakers in the Browns secondary. Tight end Bob Trumpy, number 84, cut the Cleveland lead to 2 points at 9-7.
There are only 11 tight ends in NFL history that played more than 10 years and saw more than 4 Pro Bowls in that span. Bob Trumpy was good. He was recognized as being very good, but he was unique for that downfield ability and speed that was very rare for the position back then. He was probably their most dangerous weapon on those 70s teams.
Defense. And trailing by a point with 2.5 minutes left. It was Anderson to Archie Griffin, to John McDaniel, to Ken Anderson, to Bob Trumpy, and the old flea flicker had won another big one for the Bengals.
Bob Trumpy also went on to have a long and successful broadcasting career for the NFL, where probably made a name for himself there just as much, because I don't think people saw him play as often. You know, those early days of 60s and 70s Bengals and just NFL in general wasn't widely viewed unless you were catching up on NFL films back in the day, which a lot of people did. And that's one of the reasons why the NFL grew as far as it did. And they highlighted Bob Trumpy very, very often as he was consistently getting downfield and making big plays for that Bengals offense. Another player, but one from the 80s that also was a downfield weapon, one of their best deep threats of all time. And we have yet another receiver on this list. Coming in at number 16 is Chris Collinsworth.
29. Defensive line of the Jets, one of the question marks here. Going deep, all alone. Big play, first down, Collinsworth.
One of the best two-minute quarterbacks in the history of football from the 46-yard line of Cincinnati. 1:50 to go in the half. Back to throw, Anderson. He's going deep. He's got a man up there. Caught. Great reception. Down at the 7-yard line, and he goes down immediately. That's Chris Collinsworth.
23 receptions. He is split at the bottom of your screen. That's Tate in motion on 2nd down and 9. A little offsides look like. Anderson, he reads defenses so quickly. He looked right, came back to Collinsworth, who never stopped working. At the 7. Collinsworth, touchdown. Touchdown at Collinsworth.
Chris Collinsworth was a second-round pick, 37th overall in the 1981 NFL Draft out of Florida. And that 81 season was great for him. He not only made the Pro Football Writers Association NFL All-Rookie team, but the 1981 Pro Bowl, and was a second-team All-Pro in 81 after catching 67 balls for 1,009 yards and 8 scores, a 15.1 yards per catch average.
Anderson, wide open is Collinsworth.
And of course, 1981 was the year the Bengals went to the Super Bowl for the first time. Collinsworth played in all 3 games, catching 9 passes for 159 yards and a score, a 17.7 yard average. Collinsworth would be a part of playoff teams in 81, 82, and 88. Again, another player that played in both Super Bowls. In 88, catching 5 balls for 75 yards in the playoffs.
Anderson takes a look and fires in a fine reception. Slanting in was Collinsworth.
Like Reggie Williams and Bob Trumpy in today's episode, Chris Collinsworth was a career Bengal, spending his entire career in Cincinnati, playing in 8 seasons, 107 games with 90 starts, catching 417 passes for 6,698 yards and 36 scores.
Second down, long 2. Collinsworth, single coverage, wide open, and he's good move, Chris. Collinsworth, he has great speed. What a game, Collinsworth.
Over the course of that career, Chris Collinsworth would be a 3-time second-team All-Pro and a 3-time Pro Bowler, and ultimately a Bengals 50th anniversary team member. He's also in the University of Florida Athletic Hall of Fame.
Major factor here. Again, strong pass blocking. Another throw, another catch. Collinsworth, he's going in. Chris Collinsworth is in. And the Bengals are back to within 7 points.
Wide receivers on the same side. This time they straightened it out. We see Collinsworth go all the way across the backfield in motion, up the field, and then just a little short post in there. Again,
like Lapham and Trumpy, Chris Collinsworth went into the media to be a sportscaster after his playing career and is now the winner of 17 Sports Emmy Awards and the majority owner of Pro Football Focus.
Chris Collinsworth, the rookie from Florida, the Pro Bowler. One of 2 rookies, 74 yards. He's got it all today. Don't go one. Gone for incompletions and one's gone for a long completion. Look at this. This is the kind of ball that the Pittsburgh Steelers pick off with regularity. Blunt would have taken Collinsworth.
Been a factor at all. The Bengals have put the ball in the air, and they'll do it again. Esiason going for it. Collinsworth, touchdown, Cincinnati. Coming into this ball game, if you just joined us, up until 3-4 minutes before game time, Sam White had still not decided on who his starting quarterback would be. Esiason going for the flag to Collinsworth, and he is out of bounds inside the 1-yard line.
Sometimes it don't work out. Eddie Brown and Collinsworth both wide to the left. Esiason going back to the air. Collinsworth. Touchdown.
The 16, Charles Alexander is in the ball game as a blocking back. Esiason unloading for the post. Touchdown, Collinsworth, yes!
Chris Collinsworth comes in at 16th overall, and a guy that's still an advocate for Cincinnati and the area and the Bengals, and has been around and still had an impact long after his playing days, but a great career he had, honestly, and deserving of the knocking on the top 15 door. Is he going to be a Ring of Honor guy? I think he will eventually. I don't know that he is in the next few years. We'll have to see how the process goes. I think eventually we're going to get to one player per year, and that may knock Collinsworth back just a little bit, but still a great player that was vital to those 80s teams for the Bengals. And next episode, when we get into the top 15, from here out, I think all of these guys are Ring of Honor players, and I suspect we're going to see 2 of them right away in getting inducted this year. So this has been Bengals on the Brain, presented by First Star Logistics from the First Star Studios. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, do all that for the First Star Media page. We got Dave Lapham, we got Malik Wright, all of us putting in a lot of work, content daily. So we've got you covered on all things Bengals. Until next time, Uday.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity knocking.